It's that time of year where four media members and the head coach in all nine CFL markets put forth their ballots for the CFL Awards. Welcome inside Bonfire Midweek, Darrin Bauming alongside the one and only Zach Schnitzer to my virtual right. Schnitz, how you doing, man? This game this week, meaningless in the standings, but we might get a look at a man we've been waiting to see possibly for months now in Nathan Rourke.
Well, it kind of was meaningless. It was a glorified preseason game like last time against BC, and then all of a sudden, Nathan Rourke, like a phoenix out of the ashes, forget the broken wing. Like this guy, I don't think any of us thought he'd be playing Darrin, and all of a sudden he's going to be playing a quarter. I'm fascinated to see what shape he's in, and we very well may see him 2 weeks later. And if he is in top form, that's a whole different ball game. So I'm now very interested, but of course, also interested to see Desmond Lawrence and how Alden Darby's fitting in and Malik Clements and all these guys. So I it's going to be a fascinating game, and any game at the Madhouse on Matheson, as you call it, is a good night, right? It's Intercept Cancer night, it's 90s night. Should be a good
90s
time.
nights.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, it should be a good game, for a variety of reasons, even if it is meaningless in the standings. All CFL playoff scenarios are cemented as of right now. It's the first time I'm told in over 25 years that this has not been the case, or as
Is that
25 years
right?
since this has been the case, where week 21 or the final week of the CFL season didn't mean anything in the standings, going all the way back to 1996. But
Wow.
we still have lots to get to on the show today. Zach, you and I are going to look back at our CFL and NFL picks from last week. Big week for you, my friend. Big week for you. We'll talk about that as well as looking ahead. You can see the numbers on the ticker below. Go to sia.com/bonfire. Sign up through that link. Support us here on the channel directly. And put a little sprinkle on this final regular season week of games. Get geared up for the playoffs. There is definitely value if you pick smartly this week. We'll go through all of that as well as our NFL picks coming up as well. But let's talk about the process that is the CFL voting, Zach. I've been
Yes,
a voter
sir.
for so long, I can't even remember how many years it's been, but I do remember, like, definitely not my first year, but a couple years in, it was like, oh, Blue Bombers weren't very good. Is Justin Medlock their most outstanding player? Like, that was a debate we had
Right.
here in Winnipeg a
Oh
long,
my
long time ago,
God.
seems like. So, it's obviously a very different era in Blue Bombers football. We'll get through all of their
Well,
all
sorry,
the
it's so funny
finalized
though,
picks.
like
Yeah.
like 2013, like who are you picking for you remember the
Yeah.
tire fire? 2014, 2015, like, I don't know, Sam Hurl for most outstanding Canadian?
Yeah, or you'd take an O lineman, or yeah,
Yeah.
it was tough. It was tough
Oh
pickings back then.
boy. Oh
No
boy.
question. But a handful of Blue Bombers nominees were unanimous selections, or I should say two.
Okay.
In Zach Collaros as the Blue Bombers' most outstanding player, and Dalton Schoen. I think he will be a unanimous selection league-wide in all likelihood, unless there's a wild card out there somewhere amongst the voters. But Zach, let's talk about the process that is the CFL Awards, the All-Star voting, and everything, because it has started this past week. Our ballots were due on Sunday. Now these awards were announced today on Wednesday. All nine teams putting out their most outstanding player nominee, most outstanding defensive player, Canadian,
Yep.
offensive lineman, special teams player, and their most outstanding rookie. And obviously, different uh, things you have to be eligible for that most outstanding rookie award. You can't play in any NFL regular season or playoff game, but really, this season it's about as simple as it gets
Yep.
with Dalton Schoen.
Yep.
So once we do this, there's four voters in every market plus the head coach. So that leaves here in Winnipeg now, following the retirement of the legendary Bob Irving, Derek Taylor has a vote, as
Yep.
does myself, Ted Wyman of the Winnipeg Sun, and Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press. That is your Football Reporters of Canada, our
Right.
official organization. Those are our voters for here in Winnipeg, as I mentioned, as well as the head coach. So what we'll do is we'll go through Winnipeg's. I
Yeah.
want people to jump into the live chat. Tell me what your number 1 and number 2 pick is for each of these, because that is how our official ballot is put together. We have a first pick and a second pick. So if there's any tie break needed, they tabulate those second picks and end up putting it through. Now, if there shouldn't be a tie because there are 5 voters in every market, but sometimes
Right.
in these positions it does happen because you'll get 3 different people, 3 different players chosen for one award, and things end up kind of being even. So in that case, the Football Reporters of Canada president would have the tie-breaking vote.
Is that right, eh?
Yeah. So here in Winnipeg, I think it's a no-brainer. Zach Collaros is the Winnipeg Blue
Yeah.
Bombers' most outstanding player for 2022. I don't want to give away my second pick in this yet, because that'll kind of be determined by the defensive player, Canadian offensive lineman, and the rest that we go through. But I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with Zach Collaros being
No.
the MOP nominee here in Winnipeg. And while there will be some debate in the West.
Well, it's funny you mentioned MOP, and I'll go on a little historical tangent here, Darrin, if I may. It took the Bombers organization from 1930, when it was established, till 1971 till we won an outstanding player award. Can you believe that? Even with the dynasty of the Kenny Payne era, it was Don Jonas who was the first outstanding player for the Bombers in 71. And now it's like every year we have the most outstanding player, and we're just like basking in awards here. It's
Yep.
great. So and I fully expect Collaros to win the league MOP as well. I mean, I think there's just no doubt at this point, especially when Rourke went down.
Yep. No, I agree with you there, but there will be many voters in the other markets that will think that Nathan Rourke deserves most outstanding
Yes.
player, or maybe most outstanding Canadian in the West Division. The
Right.
BC Lions put their ballot out, so their 4 voters and their head coach putting that all tabulated. Nathan Rourke, their most outstanding player, as well as their most outstanding Canadian. So now that all of the teams in the CFL have their nominees, they all go up against each other. In our next round of voting, I will have the opportunity to vote for MOP, taking Nathan Rourke from BC, Zach Collaros here in Winnipeg, Kenny Lawler with Edmonton, Kadeem Carey in Calgary, Darnell Sankey in Saskatchewan, and then pick a most outstanding player from that division. Same is done in the
Okay.
East with Hamilton's Tim White, Toronto's McLeod Bethel Thompson, Ottawa's Lorenzo Malden, their outstanding defensive lineman who racked up just a pile of sacks this year, and one of my favorite players in the league, and I'm glad he's getting recognition, Eugene Lewis, wide receiver for the Montreal Alouettes, getting the nominee there. It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. We'll talk about it here on Bonfire Midweek in the weeks to come, leading up to Grey Cup 109 in Regina. The Blue Bombers' most outstanding defensive player, well, I will mention Collaros, was a unanimous decision. So all 5 of us here in Winnipeg had Zach Collaros as number 1 on our ballot. Number 2 on my MOP ballot, well, that leads into most outstanding defensive player this season in Winnipeg. And Willie Jefferson wins the nod for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Jefferson was my number 2 pick this
Okay.
year. Zach, can you guess? And I think you can. And many people out there can also guess. Jump into the live chat. You know who I picked as my most outstanding defensive player on the Blue Bombers this season.
The tarpaulin, of course. I was thinking of you. I mean, I have several tarps going in my backyard now, covering up the spring and summer furniture. And every time I see my tarpaulin or I hear it flapping in the wind, I think of you, Darrin, and I think of Dietrich Nichols. And quite frankly, well, he was my pick. Not that I have a vote yet, but he was he was my pick for most outstanding defensive player for the Bombers. And I wanted to pick your brain here. how do you decide between a Willie Jefferson and a Dietrich Nichols, especially when a lot of the time they might not rack up stats simply because teams are they're trying to make the play go away from those guys because they're so
Right.
expert at their positions.
Yeah. I wrestled with this one for a long time. Interesting, Gregory Liverpool mentioning Demario
Mm,
Houston, number 2 in his most outstanding defensive player ballot.
yep.
Gregory has some thoughts on Nathan Rourke and his eligibility. Well, Demario Houston only played X amount of games this
Right.
season as well, and has been hurt. We'll get into the Blue Bombers' health situation, what we saw from practice on Monday and Tuesday this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, Les Brown. How about that, Bob P jumping in with one of the best defensive backs the Blue Bombers have ever
Yeah.
had. The reason Rod
Absolutely.
Hill had 5 picks in a game is because they did not want to throw at Les Brown on the other side of the field. That's why I picked Dietrich Nichols as my most outstanding defensive player here in Winnipeg. Another part of me, Zach, and I've employed this strategy or mantra or whatever you want to call it since early in my time of being privileged enough to vote on these awards, and that is to draw attention to players that maybe get overlooked. Having conversations with people out east, even out west, they know Dietrich Nichols is on the team. They know he's a good player, but I don't think they know just how good he is. I
Right.
really encourage people to go to down into the videos and check out my one-on-one with Brandon Alexander that I did late last week. He used a very specific word, and you won't miss it if you listen to it, of how he described Dietrich Nichols. And to me, that screamed everything I needed to know. I had my mind made up before I talked to Brandon Alexander, but it probably did help solidify it. So I had Dietrich Nichols as my number 1 and Willie Jefferson as my number 2. And because of that, I had Dietrich Nichols as my number 2 for most outstanding player on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. DBs need a little bit more recognition in this league because when a D lineman is playing well, they get knockdowns, they get pressures, they get tackles
Sacks.
for loss, they get
Yeah.
sacks. Defensive backs, when they're playing well, they don't get a lot of tackles because the ball isn't going their way. They don't
Yeah.
get a lot of interceptions because the ball isn't going their way.
Right.
You need to dig a little bit deeper and look a little bit closer. So that mantra that I've had from early in my time voting, Zach, is this: if I think Willie Jefferson is going to run away with the vote, which I did, no surprise, because he's just that good and that impactful in every game, I might, tilt my vote a little bit more to the, just a little bit different, just to let it be known that there's other players out there that are right there with Willie
So
Jefferson. But
there's a moral imperative here for DB.
well, I take it extremely seriously, right? You
Yeah.
can go back to the Andrew Harris conversation in
Oh
2019.
yeah.
You can go back to the Solomon Elamimian conversation from 2018, I believe it was, where he was the first defensive player in CFL history to win most outstanding player. Not
Right.
defensive player, but
Right.
the MOP award. And I was really glad I was,
Yeah.
part of that tip of that spear that had people say, okay, it doesn't have to be Bo Levi or Mike Riley or Ricky Ray or whoever with a whole pile of pass yards. It can be a guy that makes it happen on the other side of the football. The tackle numbers definitely help. The BC Lions having one of the best defenses with Saul and Adam Big Hill and TJ Lee and a whole bunch of guys back, that all helped. But, the voting is done by members of the media. I just want to bring, what I can to that group to, make the best
Well,
man win, if you will.
and I wonder, like, so from your chair, there databases that the lay person wouldn't have access to in terms of, like, if you're looking at a Dietrich Nichols, I would be looking at, how many passes went his way, and of those, how many were actually completed? What was the average depth of pass or target at Dietrich Nichols? I think I saw somewhere where it was, he only let one deep ball, like plus 30 yards on him all year. So it's, I wonder, because the CFL probably doesn't do it definitely doesn't do a good enough job on stats, Darrin, and deeper stats that you would need maybe to evaluate somebody that doesn't rack up, numbers, but has an impact, even if it's just the eye test.
Right. Like we do get a stats pack, everybody in the CFL on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
We get game analysis report, league analysis report, game notes prior to every game, and then a statistical breakdown of every final in the CFL, from game to game. And in the end, if Dietrich Nichols doesn't jump off the page because, they're just not throwing his way, it's because you watch the game, right? I do
Yeah.
my best to watch every minute of every CFL game that I can. Do I accomplish that every year? Absolutely not. It's very, very hard to watch 4 games a week for 21 weeks all season long, plus the playoffs, right? So I do the best I can. I try to catch up. And in the end, you have to rely on your eyes and you have to rely
Yeah.
on your ears in talking to people in other markets. Who's impressing the coaches in Montreal? I'll
Yeah.
call somebody I know in the team or somebody I know in the media. Same with a lot of the other markets. You do your homework, you do the best you can. I think where that most comes out is in the offensive line Man of the Year award, right?
Hmm.
So we'll get to most outstanding Canadian in a second. Most outstanding offensive lineman here in Winnipeg is, I think, to very little surprise, Stanley Bryant. He received my number 1 vote. My number 2 vote went to Pat Neufeld. In years past, I have voted Stanley, Bryant, and Jamarcus Hardrick. This year, I feel Hardrick maybe had a bit of a down year just in watching him. And then conversations I've had with people that know what they're talking about. They're either on the field or they're on the sidelines on the field, and that sort of thing. So I think Stanley has a very good chance based on the season he had, based on the season Collaros has had,
Yeah.
and that Brady Oliveira has had, that he could come out of the West once again as the West Division's nominee for most outstanding offensive lineman.
Yeah, and I guess next week we'll talk about the league wide awards and the divisional awards and who you picked and why, because that'll be interesting. I off the top of my head, I think about Calgary's O line as potentially fighting us for top O line and even maybe surpassing us this year with their rushing totals and the puny amount of sacks they've allowed on both Mayer and Bo Levi Mitchell. So it
Right.
should be interesting, right? I think we have Winnipegitis, especially I do as a fan. You kind of think of, like, I think about Nick Dembski, for example, most outstanding Canadian on the team. And then I think, well, of course he's going to be for the whole league. But then you look at Curly Gittins and you look at KSB and some of those guys that have more numbers than him. Mind you,
Nathan Rourke.
albeit Rourke, albeit Dembski has a nice, juicy amount of touchdowns. So it's an interesting process to
Yeah.
hear about from my perspective and our fire
Well,
starters as well.
offense versus defense as well, right? Like Dembski
Sure,
can put up the gaudy numbers, running the ball, receiving, touchdowns, the rest. But then you have Cameron Judge, who
sure,
is an every down
yeah,
tackle machine for the Calgary Stampeders. And I think, there's going to be a lot of debate for most outstanding Canadian as well. We'll get into who we think will come out of the East and the West, once we go through Winnipeg's
yeah,
ballot here. But yeah, you mentioned it. Most outstanding Canadian receiver Nick Dembski gets the Winnipeg Blue Bombers nomination. Not a unanimous selection by the 4 media voters
right,
and head coach Mike O'Shea. Not sure who they may have given that to for most outstanding Canadian. But there are a lot of good Canadians on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers roster. It could be Pat Neufeld.
yeah,
It could be, some of the special teams players that are outstanding. I wouldn't be surprised if Mark Leggio maybe got a vote from
sure,
somebody.
sure,
Because people love to jump in on, his misses that were maybe a bit egregious, but through the majority, I won't even say through the majority of the season, those games where he struggled was like 2 games, right?
yeah. You
There
look
was
at
the
the
game at home
Montreal
against
game,
Montreal
BC, yeah,
and then the game in BC, right? So I thought he had an exceptional year, not just kicking, but punting as well. So Nick Dembski's going to make some noise in the West. Maybe we'll get into Curly Gittins, Nathan Rourke, Cameron Judge,
yes,
and the rest a little bit later. Most outstanding special teams player in Winnipeg. I'm not surprised to see Janarian Grant taking Winnipeg's nomination. Also not unanimous. Just mentioned, obviously,
Leggio.
Mark Leggio, but Mike Miller.
Mike Miller could have got a vote, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of good special teams players on the cover teams as well that have played exceptionally well this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I looked at Mike Miller's stats when I was sort of doing my own just for fun, and I thought, he had a good year in terms of special teams tackles totals, but again, like, how do you really evaluate that? Because he could be the quarterback of the cover team. Guys could be running away from Mike Miller because he's a killer, and it's tough. It's really tough to evaluate that unless, like you said, like I appreciate that you actually talk to people in the know. You talk to the team. You talk to reporters in those cities. I think that's really you have to do your homework, right? Because you really don't know. It's not always the person that jumps off. I mean, for Janarian Grant, however, he's the only one with 2 punt return touchdowns in the league. He also had a kick return touchdown. I'm sure that played a role in it, hey?
No, most certainly. Most certainly. That's a very interesting one is when you have these like robo kickers, not the actual robo kicker in Dave Ridgway of the Saskatchewan Roughriders of uh, times gone by, but you have these really good kickers and punters like Rene Paredes and Sergio Castillo and Sean White and a lot of players that have come through the league over the last number of years. And then you have these guys that have these explosion games or big
Yeah,
gaudy return yards or some
yeah,
highlight reel spin moves and speed down the sideline or slicing through the middle. And it's like, oh, how do you look past those impact plays in games versus the consistency and the importance that is the kicking game, through a season? Of course, Chandler Worthy in Montreal is going to get a lot of attention.
yeah,
I would be surprised if he didn't come out of the East. Mario Alford obviously was with Montreal. Worthy's emergence made him expendable. He joined Saskatchewan and played extremely well. He was
yep,
unanimous selection as their most outstanding special teams player in Saskatchewan. So my ballot was Janarian Grant, and I had Mark Leggio as number 2
yeah.
on my ballot there. For most
I mean, that's
outstanding
fair.
rookie, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fair. I was just gonna say that that's totally fair. I think Legs, as Chico Napoli, as he says in caps every time. I hope you're enjoying your Boston pizza, buddy. You
I'm bringing
got to
this
give
one up
Legs
again.
some love.
One bird
Yeah,
alarm.
he certainly did with those two. Not just the 55-yard kick, folks. That balletic swerve away from 2 would-be punt blockers, that would have changed the game.
Yep.
That's a good one from Kevin. Did Brady Oliveira maybe get some votes for Canadian? He certainly came on in the end, and had he played the full game maybe 2 weeks ago in BC, he racks up
Mhm.
some more stats. He's now sort of fallen back in the rushing title race,
Well, it's
but
because he had 2 bye weeks in the last month of the season,
yeah.
right? It's
Well,
not that he fell back; it's just everybody else
well,
caught
but
up.
they also didn't play him very much last game, right? Like he played a
Right.
couple snaps, but
Right.
certainly a guy that really really impressed me in terms of his trajectory from where he started, the shoes he
Yeah.
had to fill in. Yeah, so rookie, I mean, obviously that was unanimous. You'd have to have a screw loose to think it could be anything other than
I'm with you,
shown.
Bob, man. Everybody out there, really appreciate you joining us here on Bonfire Midweek, going through the Blue Bombers and CFL Team Award nominations and getting into the voting and all of that. Do us a big favor, get down to the video below, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, consider subscribing if you haven't yet. Jump on your podcast feed and subscribe there as well. If you need a little taste of the bonfire when you're out and about or wherever, you can just pop open your Apple Pods or your Google Podcasts or Spotify or whatever, and we'll be there for you as well. Grey Cup week, we're going no matter what. So there will be tons of awesome content all week long, live from Regina as well. And then we'll get the hockey going here in Winnipeg very soon. Most outstanding rookie, we leave the best for last. Unanimously selected, Blue Bombers outstanding receiver Dalton Schoen. Even
Yeah.
as a 3rd or 5th or 7-year player in the league, he would be thought of as a league all-star with the numbers and production and frankly highlight reel plays that Dalton Schoen has been able to amass this season. Zach, it's really, really something.
The revelation, not the strevelation. He's the revelation, folks. I say it again. He's not only a rookie, Darren. He never played the waggle in his entire life. Walks on, and the work ethic, the accountability. I mean, and just the sheer talent, right? Uh, I think I remember you talking about him in preseason and saying, "Hey, don't be surprised if this guy makes the roster." That's one thing. But if I would have told you this guy's going to have 1,275 yards and 15 touchdowns, like 4 more than Dominic Rhymes, and could very well win the receiving yards title. He's definitely going to win the receiving touchdowns title. I don't want to say it made Greg Ellingson an afterthought, but it's not like we were whining and moaning about Greg Ellingson not being on the field most of the season.
He
I mean,
made it
this guy is
digestible, a lot of those
oh,
injuries, right?
guy has been an absolute revelation. It reminded us of Brandon Zylstra, and that's saying something. And for some, Zylstra had 5 touchdowns when in his breakout season. This guy very well may have um, put Zylstra quite a bit behind him in terms of his production, and Zach trusting him, Zach being uh, a veteran quarterback who's had relationships with guys for years, chemistry, right? This is a rookie, and he's earned
Yeah.
Zach's trust, especially on those broken plays in the red zone. Like, my goodness, it's something that we'll certainly be remembering and hopefully writing about for years.
No, no question. No question. It really is something special. It helps when you have a quarterback like Zach Collaros. But yeah, have we seen will this be the final stretch of 2-3 games for Dalton Schoen?
Yeah,
Maybe. Maybe
yeah,
not. We'll see what the winter brings for the young man from Kansas State. Okay, so look, if Dalton Schoen doesn't win the CFL's Most Outstanding Rookie Award, something is wrong.
yeah.
But I would love to get your take, Zach, on some of the other nominees of if Schoen didn't exist, what do you think would happen? The BC Lions nominated Emmanuel Ragamba. The Edmonton Elks had Kevin Brown, their linebacker,
Yeah,
who their tailback,
running
who they
back.
just signed
Yeah,
to a new contract extension. Makes you wonder about James Wilder Jr., signed a multi-year contract coming
yeah.
into this year, suffered an injury early in the season, and that was it for him. Calgary Stampeders tailback Peyton Logan and
Oh,
the
yeah,
Riders tailback Frankie Hickson,
yeah,
both outstanding little bowling ball, pinballs, if you will, pinball juniors for those two West Division teams. That'll be interesting. Kicker Seth Small in Hamilton,
yeah.
Greg McKellar with the Toronto Argonauts. I'll be honest, I'm not even sure who Greg McKellar is. Could
Yeah,
be
seriously, he
a D
sounds like
lineman.
sounds
Help
like
me out.
he's an accountant at, I don't know, a
Yep.
local establishment.
Devontae Williams is the most outstanding rookie from Ottawa. Tyson
Yeah,
Philpott of the Montreal
yeah.
Alouettes. I sure hope he gets or becomes the East Division nominee for most outstanding rookie. Who do you like out of that group?
I honestly like Hickson impressed me, but it's got to be Peyton Logan for me. That guy with just and again Winnipegitis. I mean, we saw what he did to us in I believe it was the second home game. We only beat him by 2, and that guy was just running circles around our linebackers. They just got him the ball in space, and then of course, his return yardage and touchdowns and just skills catching the ball, running the ball, special teams. For me, he really stuck out, and frankly, he's one guy that makes Calgary very scary, where you have this 3-headed monster of him, Jedrick Mills, and then of course Kadeem Carey.
Yeah, it's
It's like
nuts.
a hydra of running backs, and he's a scary player. He's
Did you see
just
the 2-on-1 interview with Mills and Kadeem Carey?
no, I didn't.
It was really something. Danny Austin, friend of the program, great reporter for Post Media in Calgary, requested those two running backs together post game, and it was just awesome with them kind of talking with one another. I don't know if Danny stole the idea from me, but that's kind of what I did with
Of course he
Brady
did.
Oliveira and Johnny
Of
Augustine
course he
earlier
did.
this year. But I might have to bug Danny for some royalties there, but it was a very cool interview to watch, especially Kadeem Carey being, as good as he is and as established now that he is in the CFL, talking about, getting Mills the work and the production. And, one of them, gets down to the goal line. They bring the other guy in, he gets the touchdown, and then they reversed roles on the next drive where Carey gets him down to the goal line and then Mills gets his touchdown. So, spoil of riches there at tailback with Calgary Stampeders.
You saw how they took it to Saskatchewan, although I don't know if the Riders were psychologically going to put up much of a fight last week. We can talk more about that when we review the week, but they could have called a run play every play, and the three of those guys would have just ridden those. And that's a good linebacking core with Sankey there and Larry Dean and whatnot. But yeah, embarrassment of riches in the run game for the Snaps.
No question. And speaking of watching the games, I don't know about you, Zach, but I go to SIA.com/bonfire during the game. Okay.
Yes, you've told me about this.
And it's like, you watch the lines move and the odds move, and like, you don't have to go crazy, but if you just sit there and you watch the first half, watch the second quarter, watch the third quarter, and you'll look at the over under number and you're like, okay, it's 13-10. It's the third quarter. The offenses have been struggling. I don't think they're going to get to 44 points.
Yeah.
And you throw a little money on that, right? And or the money line or the second half money line or the point spread will change based on what happens in the game. Last week, who was it? It was Ottawa had a 7-0 lead. No, Edmonton had a 7-0 lead in their game. And suddenly the point spread line swung huge. And I'm like, hang on a second. There's no way Edmonton's going to win this game. But now you can get great odds on Edmonton losing just because they're up 7-0. So you jump on that. You can do quite well in-game betting. So go check them out. There's the link right there below. And for those listening on podcast, SIA.com/bonfire. Sports Interaction is Canada's online sports book. CFL, NFL, NHL,
and
you name it.
You don't have to bet the farm, right? You don't have to. You could sprinkle in $5-10 here.
I've been doing like a buck on different hockey games.
Sure, on a parlay, 6-game parlay in the NFL, it's just entertainment, folks, and it makes it really fun. You might actually care what happens in that Tennessee Titans, Houston Texans game, or you're watching, an Ottawa Red Blacks game and they're out of contention, but you're looking at the over under and who's injured, and you might be able to catch something in the second half. So I've had a great time on that site. And honestly, Darrin, it's not just because they're sponsors. Like when you withdraw your funds from there, it is like instant. If you don't get the SMS code that you need to the Interact one, right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
They have 24/7 live chat assistants. The people, they're not computers. They come on there, they help you. They're super friendly. Everything's
I get them on the phone.
Peasy.
I was talking to him on the phone the other day. It was great. Guy's like, I'm here in Quebec, and he's talking like it was awesome.
If you've ever tried other betting sites to get your money out, or you've had
might take a week.
The miles and miles of red tape that the image you showed us of your license, it's not quite there. Can you send it again? So, anyway, let's just say I've done well. You've done even better. And so don't forget, folks, I'm going to be revealing our third of 4 prizes for our special holiday pack from our friends at TSV. We had the Jets mug, we had the hand and arm warmers that the official ones the players wear on the sidelines. I'm gonna show you the third one later tonight, I should say.
Yeah,
I'm a little off, man. I got to tell you, my daughter had like the like a hurricane of a tantrum. 7-year-olds. I didn't know this, dude, but like, it's like they're so up and down. 1 minute, like she's like
she better be good. She better be
angel.
good the rest of the week, Zach, because Halloween's coming.
I don't know if anyone has had a 7-year-old here in the chat, or they are like the bonfire's raging 1 minute, and then the next minute they're just like, I'm an adult. And then the 2 seconds later, it's like screaming on the floor and spitting and hitting their. I'm just like, what's going on? So my
You'll be
wife,
okay.
my
Hey,
wife made me leave the room and go put
Zach,
in
you are
earplugs.
safe and warm
Oh my
around the
god.
bonfire now,
Oh my
so
god.
no worries
I'm just rattled, dude.
while
I'm
you're away.
rattled.
No, you're good. I can tell you're good. Uh, so special teams player in the East, Chandler Worthy of Montreal, Louis Philippe Bourassa for Ottawa, a great cover man. Daniel Adebaboye from Toronto, Seth Small, Hamilton's kicker. I think Chandler Worthy is going to come away with that one. Rene
Yeah.
Paredes in Calgary, Mario Alford, the returner in Saskatchewan, Christian Salisbury in Edmonton, Sean White, the veteran in BC, to go along with
Right.
Janarian Grant here in Winnipeg. Who do you like to come out of the West?
Well, I mean, it's the sexy stat is the return numbers, right? He has 3 and nobody else has 3. So Janarian Grant looks good on paper, but then you have those gaudy kicking numbers of Paredes and White. Those are hard to argue with. And Alford, Alfred's been phenomenal. Although
Yes.
I don't know that if I was a Saskatchewan Roughriders fan, I'd be enjoying how much they were celebrating that kick return touchdown when they were just eliminated from the playoffs. I don't think you'd see that on O'Shea's team, but that aside, I'd have to look more closely. Like I know Sean White's. I did a little bit of research, and Sean White's percentage is higher than Paredes, but he doesn't have as many longer kicks and as many attempts. So you have to really look at the numbers and the attempts and depth of kick and all of those things situationally. Is it a game winner? So my sense immediately, if you're going to go kicker, would be Paredes, but uh, we'll see.
Yeah, the big returns seem to stand out in people's minds a lot. That at least through my experience of watching how the votes get shaken out. Most outstanding Canadian in the West: Adam Konar, the linebacker for Edmonton; Joel Figueroa, the offensive line. Or pardon me, did I miss? Oh yeah, okay, sorry. Adam Konar in Edmonton, Nathan Rourke in BC, Kian Schaefer Baker, who I think has a very good
Yeah,
shot coming out of the West, probably along with Rourke and Nick Dembski. Cameron Judge adds even more fuel
Cameron
to that
Judge is
debate
phenomenal. Yeah,
in Calgary.
yeah,
Tunde and Delake, great
phenomenal
DB
safety.
and
Yeah,
special teamer in Hamilton.
yeah,
Curly Gittens Jr., who really emerged this season as a receiver in Toronto. Nate Bahar, the receiver in Ottawa. And Marc Antoine Dequoy in Montreal, another great
yeah.
cover
All very
man
good
and
players.
and special teamer as well. So uh, the power is in the West. I think Dequoy or Gittens is going to be the nominee coming out of the East. But when you put Cam Judge against Nathan Rourke, against Nick Dembski, against Kian Schaefer Baker, it's anybody's to win. Really
My,
is.
and don't you get the sense that Rourke will get it just because I think the trajectory was he would have won MOP hands down, as much as we hate to say that in Winnipeg, and they'll give it to him just because of how explosive and record breaking he was. Like he's a phenom. I mean, he was on pace for Doug Flutie numbers,
Yeah.
and he's Canadian. So I don't know what you think, Darren, but I just figure he's a shoe-in for that MOC. Although Gittens in the East, that's right, she did.
Good
I
comment
listened
from
to the
Matt Carr.
post game on the Green Zone just for entertainment, and it didn't even give me that, man. Like if you're a Bombers fan and you want to be entertained, you go on the Rider fan forum when they lose or miss the playoffs. But it was actually so sad that I wasn't even entertained. I actually felt in my cold blue heart there was a little bit of empathy for those deranged fans to the left. I mean, really, we'll get to that, but I actually I was like, "Oh my god, a whole hour of post game and I get to hear this." I was like, "These guys are like it's a sad embarrassment." And if I'm a Rider fan, like they were outraged. Like you heard people on that chat and on the forum saying like, "I am not renewing my tickets." These are
Well,
Rider fans.
hey, A lot of fans say that. They've said that about the Jets. They've said it about the Bombers. They say it about the Canadians. They say it about the
Yeah.
Canucks. Um, that's their right as fans.
Totally, and that's
Spend
the
your money where
point,
you want.
that's the point Belton and the boys were making, like,
Yeah.
you as a fan, if you pay money, you can have any opinion you want. But anyway, Lynn Reimer here is saying to suck it up, no empathy here. Jeff McDellis, he's not liking my take, and Bombers 1985, he says, "Rider pain and anger feeds my soul." So, I'm just too much of a softie. Anyway, Darren, well, I
Yeah.
digress. I'll take a
Fritchie,
shot.
I want to get to that comment you made about Nathan Rourke over the next couple of weeks in just a second. So offensive lineman, Landon Rice in Montreal, Winnipeg native.
Oh,
Jacob Ruby in Ottawa. Dayon Allen in
oh yeah,
Toronto.
Toronto.
Brandon Revenberg will probably come out of the East from Hamilton. Over in the West, Derek Dennis, despite his season ending early, came out as Calgary's
Yeah,
offensive line nominee, not Zach Williams, another Winnipeg native,
yep.
not Ryan Sevier, who I thought was probably going to be in the running there as well. Logan Furland with Saskatchewan. I don't know, nothing on Logan Furland, but I don't know if you
They
want to
they
pick.
had to they had to pick somebody, I guess.
Right. Right. And then Mark Cordy in Edmonton was a unanimous decision, and Joel Figueroa
Yeah.
joining Stanley Bryant in the West. That'll be an
That
interesting one.
it's and I wonder, Darren, let me I wanted to ask you this. So it's I think about the Academy Awards, right? Where you have someone that's the best every year, like a Meryl Streep, right? But you can't keep giving them the award because people stop watching because it's not interesting anymore, right? It's like if Winnipeg and Hamilton play against each other again in the Grey Cup, people get sick of it, even if they're the best. So is there something where like Stanley Bryant may be the best again, but it's just like people want to give it to somebody else, or they
I
they
think that
just
does happen sometimes.
I feel like there's a little bit of, although Derek Dennis had a phenomenal
He
year.
really did. They were the
Yeah,
best running team in the league. They were protecting Bo
yeah,
at that time
yeah.
when Dennis went down. So yeah, yeah. We'll.
That'll be a
I don't
tough,
know.
like a lot of these things. Like what I'm hearing is that like it's kind of like the Grey Cup. It's like whoever comes out of the West probably has a really good shot of taking the whole thing, right? So
Casey Jones says Landon Rice is actually a Brandon Oak Lake boy, born in
sweet.
Winnipeg. So, but thank you, appreciate that as well. How about this? Bailey says, I don't know why, but Zach's giving out a real life auto from The Simpsons vibe.
I haven't watched The Simpsons in many years.
Smells
Who's
like Otto's
Otto?
jacket.
Otto? I gotta look up Otto. I forget who that is.
This is
But
the
I'm
school bus
very
driver.
oh.
Remember, he's kind of like a pothead. It's like, oh, it smells like Otto's jacket in here.
Well, I do have bags under my eyes genetically, and that is even worse since I've had
Got a
the
little rasp in
second
the
kid.
voice.
And you said it looked like I had a black eye. I think that's an emotional
Yeah, you
black
got
eye
a
from
little
my
kiss. You got
daughter.
a little kisser
We
there.
literally had like the most mature conversation about how much TV she was gonna get. Everything was rosy. We had a plan. And then 2 hours later, she said, "Okay, I want to watch TV." And I'm like, no, just lost it. I think it was an emotional black eye, Darren. It's
Those
just,
can hurt more than the real
it
thing.
hurts. It runs deep. But hey, if I could be a bus driver, that's you're keeping kids safe. You're developing rapport with the kids. You're the first entry into the school world for some of these kids. So you got to be a friendly face.
Yeah.
Love it, love it. I'm honored to be equated to a bus driver named Otto from The Simpsons. Thank you.
So quickly, we'll wrap this up. Defensive player Gary Peters, the defensive back in
Oh,
BC. Jake
good stuff.
Serezna, awesome
Yeah.
season on a growing Edmonton Elks team. Really glad he came out of there. Darnell Sankey, not just the MOP of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, also most outstanding defensive player.
Yeah.
Sean Lemon in Calgary.
Yes.
Winton McManus, the linebacker in Toronto. Javan Santos Knox, our old pal here in Winnipeg,
Yes. Number
is
45.
Hamilton's nominee. Lorenzo Malden, MOP and MODP in
Yeah.
Ottawa. Adarius Pickett, great pick from the Montreal
Yeah.
Alouettes. They got a lot of good players on that defense, but I really like that. It was a unanimous selection too for Adarius Pickett. I think defensive player is wide open this year. Is there anybody that you really like? I'll say maybe outside of Willie Jefferson.
How could I like anyone outside of Willie Jefferson? No,
I like Dietrich Nichols.
I mean, yeah, those Greg saying handed my 90s card immediately for sure. Maybe I was high the whole 90s. I don't know, but there's so many guys there that are studs, Darrin. I would have a really hard time. Like Sean Lemon for me is someone he has a lot of the sexy stats, as I always
He
say,
does.
but I didn't come up with that term, but I always say it. Um, and kind of like wasn't he unceremoniously dumped by was it Edmonton? Another team dumped Lemon, and then here he has this monster. I feel like he's played for
Well,
every team in the league,
he has been on a lot of teams.
but the numbers he's racked up is pretty phenomenal. But he's got like Mike Rose there and Aremilata. He's got a really good cast of characters on that D line, but he certainly jumps out to me just in terms of his raw numbers as
Yeah,
someone. But McManus is phenomenal. Sankey is a tackling machine. It would be hard. It would be hard to pick for me. How
I'm
about
with you.
you?
It is a tough one. I'm going to reserve judgment for the
Yeah,
time being.
yeah. I got a little
As a
deeper.
ballot holder, I don't want to get chewed up too much before I really put in my work, put in my homework.
Yes.
Most outstanding player, Ottawa's Lorenzo Malden, Gino Lewis in Montreal, Tim White in Hamilton, McLeod Bethel Thompson in Toronto. I think the East is wide open. Wide open. In the West, joining Zach Collaros, Kadeem Carey in Calgary, Darnell Sankey in Saskatchewan, Nathan Rourke in BC, Kenny Lawler in Edmonton. It's going to come down to Rourke and Collaros. Mark my words.
Yeah. Well, and just something I think about, you think about these linebackers like McManus and Sankey who rack
You're
up
right,
these
waiters.
and Judge who rack up these tackling stats. If you're a linebacker, you want tackles, right? But
Mhm.
it's not like a DB where if they have double digit tackles, something's wrong. But then, so Biggie doesn't have a huge number of tackles. He's not at his usual pace, Darrin. But then you look at the fact that the Bombers have allowed the least rushing touchdowns. So to what extent does that play into voting? Not just individual stats, but team stats.
100%. 100%. It absolutely factors in.
Yeah. Like if you have a high field goal percentage because you keep kicking chip shots, right? Like you got to look past some of the numbers, and stats are only good in context.
That
Um,
is true.
it's like when I go to my mom's
Got to
house.
watch the games, man. You got to
Well, I go
watch.
to my mom's house and I can reach the second level of the cupboard for some glassware, and she says, "Oh, you're so tall." Tall being an interesting word, right? I'm 5'6 3/4" on a good day. If my daughter hasn't like pounded my soul down to like down to size, so tall in the Schnitzer house is means nothing, right?
Man, she shook you up today.
Oh
Um, who is it here? Larry Ward
no,
says, "Is Kenny
absolutely
Lawler going to
not.
stay in Edmonton?"
Not if
I'll
he had a
say this:
brain.
they signed. Uh,
Heavy ball Cornelius? Yeah, like, give me a
no,
break.
no, no, not Cornelius. They signed their
Oh, Mitchell,
breakout
Dylan Mitchell.
Dylan Mitchell, their breakout receiver. So maybe Kenny is going to be a free agent again this year. I just wanted to mention this: Farhan Lalji, who, look, if I have a football question, I ask Farhan. Great guy, good
Oh,
friend of
yeah.
mine. Very happy to be able to have him at my disposal as far as getting information or even just frankly insight when I need it. But here is his CFL West Award winners: Zach Collaros, Sean Lemon, Stanley Bryant, Dalton Schoen, Janarian Grant, and then struggling between Rourke and Judge for most outstanding Canadian. Um, so, I think that maybe puts a lot of people's perspective on a different scale when they think, it can't be Nathan Rourke, it's got to be Nick Dembski. Look, Nathan Rourke lit it up. He deserves recognition for that. Cameron Judge had an outstanding season as well. So we'll see how that shakes out. It'll be very interesting, contentious. Nearly, I'm sure there'll be some good debates and conversations about all of this
Is
in the Football Reporters of Canada hospitality suite at
Sure.
the Grey Cup in
So
Regina.
let me ask you, Darren, is there somebody amongst the voters nationally that for whatever reason, like you just go head to head, like for whatever reason, every year you guys just tend to disagree, which is
Well,
a good thing, right?
if
Yeah.
there was, do you really think I would air that laundry?
I'm not talking about in a bad way. I'm talking about like both intelligent
Oh, like
people
who
that
likes
just
to debate?
yeah, who do you have
Oh,
like the hottest debates with?
lots of people love to debate. Like, look, like this isn't a secret. Jeff Hamilton and Danny Austin, Matt Sequeires, Jamie Nye,
Yep.
amongst many others, myself included, that love to get into the debates about it all. And it gets down to the nitty gritty where we're debating. It's like, don't you remember week 17? That game was in Hamilton, right? Yeah. Like, remember in the third quarter and they were up by 15? But like, why did that lead a race? It was because this happened because of this guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. And it's like, and then he did it again the next week. And, he was doing it earlier in the year too. Yeah. But remember when it gets,
I'd love to be a
detailed.
fly on the wall, to use an overused cliche,
Yeah.
but I think it would be like after the awards are finalized and it's the awards show after Grey Cup, man, like someone should record that, maybe edit out some bleep out some things, but folks, he's not naming names. These are his freaking colleagues, right? Maybe you're jealous of that, but like I could name drop my colleagues and they're pretty smart, but like if you work in the media business, your colleagues are in the media.
Well, look, I got a buddy named Mitch who is the supreme king of dry humor. And if we're talking about sports and I'm like, oh, yeah, Dave Naylor called me it would be like, oh, hang on. Darren, let me get that. There's that name you've dropped there.
Come on.
That's what he loves to
Aaron,
do.
you're
But
one
yeah,
of the
no,
most
like I mean,
humble and personable guys I know. That you can't throw shade on this guy for name. Like these are his freaking like. Oh, was he supposed to say like, "Oh, I talked to other, reporters. I won't name names. We all know who they are. They're the voters anyway." Blah blah
yeah.
blah. Shut up, Zach.
Bailey thinks that I and Jeff Hamilton look similar. We look like long lost relatives. I've never heard that before. Look
No,
at
what are you
Danny
talking
Austin
about?
closely. Look at Danny Austin
Oh yeah,
closely. There is a picture him and I have. We're both wearing glasses. Like I just like threw on a pair of flasses
you
or
got to
fake
tweet that.
whatever, like readers. And I think Danny Austin could be I was adopted. Maybe he very well may be a
You never
relative of
know.
mine,
I like to
long
think you're
lost.
one of my one of the tribe though, Darren. One of us Jews, but who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, Jeff Kabila says Jeff Hamilton and I'm holding up broken beer bottles at each other after a
That's
heated
low.
discussion.
That's
There's a
low.
reason why we only drink cans in the Football
Right.
Reporters of Canada hospitality suite, but whatever happens in there stays in there. Even me to you, Zach,
Yeah.
especially to everybody out. Like you ain't getting any secrets out of me for what goes on there. Um, that's an excellent question. I don't
I just
remember.
well, someone on the chat was asking what was the barbershop you were talking about last time, buddy?
Old Town Barbershop.
Yes, Old
That's where
Town,
you wanna
baby.
go. He's awesome. Jeff, is
Yeah.
awesome. Go into Bonfire Midweek's, video description from last week, and you'll have some information there on, uh Jeff and, Old Town Barbershop. Really cool sports atmosphere, there as well. Okay, we're not gonna go around the CFL this week. We will look ahead though, Zach, as you and I,
Yeah.
will make our picks for going into next week. You wanna start with NFL, I suppose, as we normally do? I didn't
Well, I
even check how we did. I got my
I
notebook here.
of course you don't check because it's the one time I go 2-0, baby. I'm like the 2008 Winnipeg Blue
Sure.
Bombers. I start 2-8 and I make the playoffs. I am now 2-8, folks. I had 2 wins this week, picking Cincinnati and Kansas City against San Francisco. Got back on the Kansas City, and then yeah. So now 2-8. what happened with the 2-8 Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They made the playoffs, hosted a playoff game, and then unceremoniously dumped by the crossover Edmonton football team, 29-21. I still remember that game. For some reason, the name Patrick Kabongo comes to mind. Like he got a lot of cheap shots in or something, but yeah, that was the end of the Kevin Glenn era, Milt Stiegel, all of that. So um, give DB some gefilte fish and see if he's a true Jew. I love that.
Oh,
I love that BJR.
I've had my gefilte fish,
It's good
and
stuff, hey, Darrin?
I've had a lot of great Passover setter
Yeah.
meals, and
Look at you.
I've been initiated,
And
as they
as
say.
one word says, Baum is German for Yiddish for tree. So
That's right. Yeah,
you're you're a tree guy.
Tree Lake.
He's rooted, he's grounded, right? Even when he name drops, he's a grounded guy, folks. So
So
the
Zach, you
picks.
went. I'm still looking for Cincinnati here. Cincinnati. Oh yeah, okay. So you picked Cincinnati minus 6.5 at Atlanta. They
Yeah,
rolled 35-17. So
yeah,
you covered there. Kansas City, you had 2.5 at San Francisco. They rolled
yeah.
44-23. So you went 2-0, which improves your record on the year
2-8.
to 2-8.
Two
I
and
just
eight.
wanted to double check. Okay, so
Yeah,
Zach, you're 2-8. I took Baltimore to
yeah,
cover 6.5 at Cleveland. They won by 3, so I
yeah.
missed that. I then took Green Bay to cover 5 points at Washington. They lost by 2. So I went
Oh,
0 for 2
Green
this week.
Bay.
We're in like
Green.
bizarro world. It's the twilight zone. So I
It was the
fall to
Twilight Zone.
5-5
Ooh,
on the year.
500.
Oh,
It's almost better to be 2-8 and like be an up and comer like a dark horse than just be like
I'm gonna
slide back down to mediocrity 500. Oh, Darrin,
I'm going to get my
be
game together
careful.
when CFL season is over, and then I'll be able to lock in on the NFL. Zach, we did some rapid picks as we
Yeah.
always do on the CFL slate, right?
Yes, sir.
So for week 20, you and I agreed on Hamilton minus 6. Well, we
Yeah,
missed
we
on
had
that.
it in
They
our
won by
parlay
3.
too. Shit. Yeah.
Wow, whoa, 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 whoa.
Sorry.
BC at Edmonton. You and I agreed on BC to cover 7. We hit on that. Calgary minus 2.5. We agreed on, and we
Yeah.
got that.
Oh,
The
yeah.
one we disagreed on was Toronto and Montreal.
Right. I think you got me on that one, didn't you?
So you took Montreal plus
Yeah.
1.5,
Yeah.
which you won
Oh, I
because they
did
only
win
lost
that.
by 1.
Oh, that's right. It was that Rouge. We couldn't even see that on the TSN feed, by the way. I guess it was worthy. I guess his foot was on the end line or something. But I just love those endings on the Rouge. It's just
Yeah,
great stuff.
TSN missed it, but
And the too many men against Montreal, shades of the 2009 Grey Cup. People were telling me, "Oh, karma's a whatever," but that's not karma, folks. The Riders lost the Grey Cup on a play like with too many men. That this is like whatever. Montreal lost a chance to take first. They would have had to beat Toronto back to back anyway. But yeah,
so you went 3-1 in your
yeah.
CFL rapid fire this week.
Hey, CFL, buddy, I'm good in CFL.
Good for
Good in
you.
CFL and getting better in NFL. You just gotta know who your sources are.
Okay. Well, we got to do our NFL picks. So
Yeah,
I will
buddy.
go to
So you're just gonna pick off the cuff now,
sia.com/bonfire.
right? Aren't you, you jerk?
Of course, I
Well,
always
should
do.
I tell you mine before we go or what? Because
Uh,
I'm actually prepared.
you're prepared? Okay. Well, here, just let me pull it up. I do always go off the cuff. That's why
I
I'm
know,
5
I
and
know.
5. Um, whatever you did though, stick with it. Your strategy is working going
Well,
2-0
okay, yes, I stuck with the
last
same
week.
strategy. So
Okay, so who do you got?
so I'm sticking with Cincinnati with the machine that is Joe Burrow. throwing 400-yard games at will here. He's at the Browns. Last I checked on SIA, Cincinnati, even though they're on the road, they are favored by 3.5. I think they covered that with
Okay,
ease.
Cincinnati minus 3.5 at
Yes,
Cleveland.
at Cleveland.
Okay.
And then, in a homage to my good friend Gregory Liverpool, I'm eating some crow by crapping on his Dallas Cowboys, Merck's team.
Merca's team.
Merck's team. I also had a source that said to make that pick. I just think the Bears are trash. I don't care what they did to Bradley Zappi. I think Dallas is favored by 9.5 at home against the Bears, and I think they will cover that gigantic spread.
So you got
I think they
Dallas.
light up the Bears.
You got Dallas minus 9.5
Yep.
home to Chicago.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, if that was the latest, this was earlier today, so that number may have changed. But when I last checked, it was 9.5 for the Cowboys.
Okay. I'm going off the cuff here.
Okay.
Not touching Denver at Jacksonville. That's sitting
No.
at 2.5 right now. Arizona, Minnesota, another one I am not touching. New Call of Duty out. Probably Kyler Murray staying up all night.
Jeff Kabilas is gonna have something to say about that.
I like watching Kyler
hard
Murray.
guy.
He's a fun quarterback to watch.
Yeah.
This is what I do like, though. The Carolina Panthers shocked the Bucks last week. They're in Atlanta, and I think they come back down to earth. They've traded their best receiver. They have traded their all-world tailback, their quarterback, their O-line. Things are in real trouble there. I'm going to take Atlanta minus 4.5 at home against Carolina. So I like Atlanta to, I think they're going to win by a touchdown at least. Vegas at New Orleans, Detroit. Miami's been playing really, really well, and just 3.5 at Detroit. Their defense stinks. Their offense is very good, though. That kind of shakes me off of that. The Jets are 2.5-point dogs to the Patriots in New York. That's an interesting one.
I like that one.
You know what, though? Bill Belichick, it's not like he won't lose 2 games in a row, but that team is going to be afraid to lose that second game in a row. Did you know the Eagles are 10.5-point favorites at home against the Steelers? 10.5.
Yeah, that's a lot. Ooh. But the Eagles, I mean, if you're a Philadelphia sports fan right now, you're loving this. The Phillies, the Eagles, the Penguins are doing well. Yeah. I mean, the Flyers, what am I talking about? It's getting late. They're both in Pennsylvania. Give me a break.
Yes, indeed they are. Yeah, no, Philly's a different team under John Tortorella. So Indianapolis is moving on to a new quarterback. I'm not going to touch that game.
Are you surprised about that?
No.
Gregory Liverpool gave me the hot tip. He DM'd me immediately. Erlinger or something.
Yeah. Okay, so my pick is going to be an AFC South matchup, which is always, you never know what's going to happen. But I like Tennessee in Houston.
Houston is a bag of garbage.
Well, Tennessee only has to cover 2 points.
Yeah.
2.0 on SIA.com/bonfire right now.
That's a good one.
At Houston.
Oh, Sykes Knife brings up something about that you sort of connects some here, NFL and CFL. Darrin, pull that up if you can. It's the latest one here.
Yes.
That was super cool. What did you see that?
I did. Yeah.
I think that's
a great thing.
Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
By the way, who had the Seahawks leading that division? My goodness. Yeah.
Man, that trade is going to work out lovely for the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, apparently Russell Wilson and Jerry Jeudy not getting along now.
Somebody spit in the stew. Russ ain't cooking anymore.
Yeah, watch Jerry Jeudy end up in Green Bay.
Okay, so Zach, you've got Cincinnati minus 3.5 at Cleveland, Dallas minus 9.5 at Chicago. I've got Atlanta minus 4.5 at Carolina, Tennessee minus 2 at Houston. So go to sia.com/bonfire. And well, if you like those picks, maybe you like your own, you can
Hey,
do that as well. You want to do our CFL rapid fire? Because
let's
the
do it.
lines are out.
Yes.
Okay. So
Jeff.
rapid fire.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
remember this time?
I know. I'll put
Okay,
the
BC
loquacious
at
card
Winnipeg
away.
on Friday night. It's the only game, Zach. 3.5-point favorites are the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Who do you got?
Yeah, I'll take the Bombers. I'll take the Bombers. Yeah,
You're going to take the Bombers minus 3.5.
I will.
Okay, so Winnipeg minus 3.5. I'm going to go BC.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. You just got to prove to everyone you're not a fan. That's why you're doing that.
No, no. I just think, you know what?
Rapid fire, Darren. Rapid
Yeah,
fire.
I know. Now I'm wavering. Like, I don't know if Winnipeg wants to lose 2 in a row. Yeah, no, I'll go with BC.
Not at home, buddy.
I'll go with BC plus the points,
Okay.
which helps.
Okay.
Okay. Triple header on Saturday in week 21 in the CFL. Montreal at Toronto with the Argos 3-point favorites.
I would take Montreal on that because they're not going to let me down twice in a row. They're too Jekyll and Hyde. They're not
So
going
you
to
like
lose two.
Montreal plus 3.
Yeah.
I am with you there.
Yeah.
Agreed. Hamilton is 1.5-point favorites on the road in Ottawa.
Yeah, I think Hamilton, I would take them. I think they still have something to play for. They're gaining momentum, right? I think they've been inconsistent. Coach O is probably going to want to see them, firing on all cylinders before they go into the playoffs.
I've got a good chunk on Hamilton to cover
Yeah.
1.5.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be just fine in Ottawa. They're winners of 3 straight. Not that that matters, but Orlando Steinhauer's crew, he wants to go into the
Yeah.
postseason on a winning note with the type
Absolutely.
of year
Yeah.
that they've
I
had.
think so too.
Saskatchewan, 5.5-point dogs in Calgary.
I think Saskatchewan will be auditioning people for next year. I mean, it's a hard one to pick because Calgary has nothing to play for, but I just can't see Calgary dropping it even with backups. I just think that Saskatchewan team is just destroyed. You saw that with them taking a knee on the final play. Like they've taken a knee on the season, buddy. I just think it's backup city there.
I love this. Corey May, Winnipeg versus BC over under 107.5 total points. And then Gregory needs to clarify. No, Corey May, it's 50.5. It is the highest over under
Yeah,
this
that's high.
year. But Corey May, I'm with you. I think it could be a very, very high scoring game.
Could be.
Will be interesting to see how that shakes out. So you've got Winnipeg minus 3.5. I got BC plus the points.
Yeah.
You and I agree on Montreal plus 3, Hamilton minus 1.5, Calgary minus 5.5 on SIA.com/bonfire. Okay. Here's the debate to wrap the show, Zach. Nathan Rourke has been medically cleared to play.
Yep.
They say he will start and play 1 quarter. Is that a smart move? And how much of Zach Collaros do you want to see?
Great question. I mean, I've heard all the arguments that you don't want to rush this guy, you don't want to mortgage your future, all of those things. I mean, if he's been medically cleared to play, then he's cleared to play. I don't know if it's that black and white, Darren, but I think they certainly want to see what he has, because if he's 80% Nathan Rourke and he's not going to mortgage the future, then he's head and shoulders above his backup in Vernon Adams. I don't think Vernon Adams scares anybody. So I think it's smart to play him a quarter. Do I think he's going to be throwing deep shots to Dominic Rhymes, waiting in the pocket? I don't think so. I think you're gonna see a few running plays, some hitches, some screens, things like that.
Clarify, is that designed runs from Nathan Rourke or handoffs?
Handoff. Sorry, no, I don't see him running the
I said
ball.
the same thing as you at practice this week, and a couple of the other media members were like, "Well, what do you mean, like designed run plays?" And I'm like,
I
"No,
that,
they'll
that
probably hand it off."
Yeah, so I see a pretty vanilla offense from both teams, and I see especially one that's run heavy, pretty conservative from BC. And as you said many times, they don't want to show their cards because these teams very well may play each other in 2 weeks. So that's what I see from Rourke. Again, if he's medically cleared and it's a fairly safe game, sure, but then it's always a gamble, buddy. If this guy goes down and his future or his next year is in jeopardy, boy, there'll be a lot of people with pitchforks. So I guess I got to just trust the doctors on this and the coaches and him and what he thinks. He's a young guy, maybe heals fast. With Collaros, you just want him to stay sharp. He
Yeah.
probably doesn't even have to play the game. Like, there's been this narrative that the team was rusty in the West Final last year. Well, I don't think Collaros was rusty. I don't think Collaros was rusty at all. It was a guy in the getting into the end zone, getting stripped, and Wolodarski, it was Dembski bobbling that touchdown. That wasn't Collaros. So honestly, he probably just get him a sheen of sweat, a few drives, whatever. Like, I'm not really concerned about Zach Collaros. I maybe give him a quarter or a few series.
Do
I
you
just
remember Zach Collaros's first start in 2019?
right.
Did he
He
look rusty? Because he hadn't played all year.
Yeah, he threw for 2 touchdowns, over
Scrambled.
250 yards. He did throw a pick, but, whatever. Uh, I still remember that first deep shot to Rashid Bailey because up until that point, Bailey hadn't been targeted for any sort of deep shots.
Mhm.
And I remember thinking, "Okay, this is something." And then, of course, we all remember that magical play to Darvin Adams. So, yeah, I honestly, Darren, I know it's not very exciting, but I don't really care how much that Collaros plays. I want him just to get in rhythm a little bit and then get him out of there.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. I don't think he needs a half. I don't think a lot of the
No.
starters need that much time. I expect a lot of Winnipeg's players to rest. Just pulling up Winnipeg's injury report.
Well,
Uh,
before and as you're doing that, let me just say, like, my thinking is, um, I'm expecting them to, like, my biggest concern is getting Wolodarski and especially Ellingson game ready. Like, it's one thing to
yeah.
be working your butt off in the training room or in practice, but game under the lights is different. So I expect to see them a little bit, and maybe I'll walk back the Collaros thing because he has that chemistry with both of those guys, frankly, but also especially Ellingson. So maybe you see Collaros a couple of drives, 3-4 drives, just to get him on the same page as Ellingson, um, and then I think he's gone.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree there. Unfortunately, I can't make this any bigger on the screen, but Drew Wolodarski. Okay, first of all, you read these Winnipeg Blue Bombers injury reports. Out means they're out this week. Questionable means they are possible to play this week. If
Right.
they're not ruled out, there is 100% chance they are ruled questionable. Okay. You're either questionable or out. There is nothing else. So if a player is quote unquote questionable and practiced all week in a full manner, like say a Dietrich Nichols, he's not truly questionable. He's going to play.
Mm.
That's just
Interesting.
the way it
It's just the
works.
verbiage, eh?
Yes. So for a lot of people asking, like Josh Wolf asking here, there seems to be a chance we get Demario Houston back at corner. He was dressed in practice. In the meantime, this week we have Lawrence at cornerback, Parker at halfback on the field side. Not worried. That could very well be their starting lineup for the West Final on November 13th. That all said, Evan Holm is out this week with a head injury, as is Malcolm Thompson, Nick Taylor, Deadrick Hansen, Kyrie Wilson, and Carlton Agadosi. I don't see those guys being likely to return this year. I'll leave it at
Mm.
that. Noah Hallett is back practicing. He's questionable, but again, I think they're just going to be a little bit more cautious with him because he did have a setback on that season-ending knee surgery he had at the end of last year. Jackson Jeffcoat practiced fully
Yeah,
yesterday.
that was a weird one.
Yeah, he practiced fully. They may rest him again. He's just dealing with some things.
Yeah, and nagging
So
stuff.
they're going to see how that works. Brian Cole, special teamer and backup linebacker, full, as was Malik Clements, just a personal issue with him. But, he came back in Winnipeg's last game and looked fine. Mike Miller did not practice, tends to be kind of that veteran rest day. No update from head coach Mike O'Shea on Chris Kolinkowski this week.
Yeah.
He did not practice all week. He is ruled out, but you have the ultimate guy to step up and step in Michael Couture, the day one starter and
Totally.
2021 CFL All-Star. Jamarcus Hardrick is questionable this week. It could be Eric Lofton at right tackle. We could see some Drew Richmond in this game as well. It'll be interesting when that depth chart comes out on Thursday morning. Same with Stanley Bryant. Questionable whether he wants the rest or not. I'm sure that's going to be up to him, but ultimately up to the team. Nick Dembski is out dealing with a bit of a calf injury. They're just putting him on the shelf and ensuring that he is going to be okay and good to go for the playoffs. And there's the two studs that have been waiting in the wings, working their tails off to get back from injury in Greg Ellingson and Drew Wolotarski. So, to Josh Wolf's point, yeah, Demario Houston is absolutely somebody who is back on the practice field. I think he's on the mend. I think he is somebody that could be healthy for the playoffs. But having Desmond Lawrence at corner, having Jamal Parker at halfback, obviously Brandon Alexander at safety and Alden Darby at dimeback, and then Dietrich Nichols and Winston Rose on the boundary at half and corner respectively. Winnipeg's defensive secondary is solidified and I think strong for the postseason. Jamal Parker has really, really come on. He has turned into a heck of a good player, reliable. I had a great conversation off microphone with Jordan Younger this week. You read Taylor Allen's
Yes,
piece.
you got to read that. I retweeted that great piece on a guy we don't talk about nearly enough.
Love Jordan
Absolute
Younger.
future DC and possibly a head coach in this league.
Yeah, Bob, man, you want to know the over-under on all the games? You can find them on the ticker below, but you want to go to sia.com/bonfire.
Listen,
sign up. You only have to deposit
stuff,
$20, and $20 will get doubled to $40. You can put in up to 1,000, I think, and they'll double it in bet credits. So,
and I'm only 5'6". I've got to pay someone to clean my second and third floor eavesdrops, folks. So I need the money. I'm just kidding. But Darrin, I mean, I'm pretty happy with how this defensive backfield and linebacker core and D-line is shaping up. If you're getting Jeffcoat back, hate to hear about Kyrie Wilson and Nick Taylor, of course, and Teatrick Hansen. But if you're going to get Houston back, we picked up Alden Darby. You got Desmond Lawrence. There was a piece on him in the Free Press today. I think our defense is going to be good, and our offense, no one's concerned about our offense. So I just think we may have
sure that line is healthy, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course you do. I just think that this week's game, you're going to see if there's questions about someone's health, they're just not going to play them, and they want everyone to be healthy for the West Final. And I think if the Bombers, so I put a poll out on Twitter. Who would you rather play in the West Final, Calgary or BC? We'll get to this quickly if you don't mind, Darrin, and then I got to do this TSV
I'm
thing.
with you, Josh. Great comment here from Josh Wolf. That's kind of how I see the skill positions in Winnipeg's offense. But yeah, your poll got a lot of action.
It was I got a big poll, Darrin. What can I say? Over 300 votes. 56% said they'd rather see the BC Lions, for reasons such as they're a dome team traveling to the frozen tundra of the madhouse on Matheson, and not being sure about Nathan Rourke, being more afraid of Calgary's run game, things like that. And then there's people that say BC's the best with Rourke and they want to beat the best. So just an interesting variety of comments there. and people being, and I think rightfully afraid of Calgary's run game, of Jake Mayer, how he diced us up, even though we beat them 3 times. It wasn't like we blew them out, Calgary. So,
If I had to pick the more
yeah,
dangerous team, if you just want my opinion, and look, my good pal, Bonfire Sports alumnus Nick Kowalski, now a member of the BC
yes,
Lions multimedia department, I think Calgary's the better team.
I do
Does
too.
Nathan Rourke become the X factor in that? Possibly.
Sure.
But I don't know what we're going to see from Nathan Rourke until we see him in the game. Is he going to be as dynamic with his feet and with his legs and in being elusive
Exactly.
and
That's the
rolling out?
fascinating. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a fascinating thing to
But
watch on Friday, right?
don't sleep on Calgary and
No.
don't sleep on Hamilton. You want 2 dark horses in the
Yeah.
CFL
Yeah.
playoffs? That's my take anyway.
Kabilis and I and I'm afraid of the Stamps. They're well coached. We played them 3 times. You try and beat a team four times. That's not easy. And the run game travels, right? Especially in cold weather, as they like to say. What were you name dropping again there,
Oh,
Darrin?
Nick Kowalski, of course.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Right,
It's his homecoming game this weekend.
right.
So
Young Nick,
he'll be
the
on the
Ken
field
genius.
pregame and yeah.
Okay, so folks, we all know about our TSV friends. You can get their great stuff made in Winnipeg over on King Edward. You can get it at Fanatics, Amazon, Shoppers Drug Mart, of course, the Bombers store. Good friends of ours, and they've given us what I've coined a holiday prize pack. So first we had this sculpted Jets mug, of course, because Darrin, you're getting heavy into the Jets and NHL and hockey. So this is a nice sculpted mug, raised. Little bit of a raised emblem here, very nice. And then you've got what did you call that?
That's the word mark.
A word mark over here. Beautiful mug. And then last time, Darrin, we had the official sideline gear of the Bombers to keep their hands warm. And then if
Mhm.
you want to keep your hands warm in the Western Final, you want to have this. This week, the third of 4 is a very Christmas-oriented, beautiful Blue Bombers ornaments that you don't, I'm Jewish and I would put these up. So that
Some
tells you
nice looking
something.
balls, Zach. Nice looking
Beautiful
balls there.
balls and
Shiny.
blue, shiny
You
blue
have
balls,
big shiny
blue balls.
blue balls.
You're gonna have to do some editing here, buddy. Now the
Well, on
next
that note, let's leave that right at the end. It'll make it
I
easy to
just
edit
want to
out.
say
Yeah.
next week's prize, which rounds out the 4, is a phenomenal exclusive from TSV. I will say it's a highlight. I don't know if it's at the Bombers store yet, but yeah, you're definitely going to want to drink that one in, and then that's a bit of a clue, folks. Darrin, I did want to ask you though, and the
Yeah.
fire starters, just quickly. There's a couple of races. In terms of, league leaders here for next week. I know none of the games
Right.
matter like McLeod Bethel Thompson's going to win the passing yards leader. He's 600 ahead of Harris and Collaros.
Yeah.
But Schoen and Rhymes are very close with Eugene Lewis and Tim White right there. Who's going to win the receiving yards title? Tackles, Sankey is 115, Santos Knox is 105. But if I'm Sankey, for Saskatchewan, Calgary's going to run a lot, and Saskatchewan has no reason to rest Sankey. You've got Malden in terms of sacks with 16, Lemon with 14. Interceptions, it's close. Jamal Peters with 6, Gary Peters 5 for BC, Cameron Kelly 5 for Hamilton. Any thoughts on maybe quickly who's going to win those races?
Well, receiving yards is anybody's game. Schoen 1357, Rhymes 1346, Gino
Close.
1303, even Tim White at
Yeah.
1265. It's wide open. Jalen Acklin had fallen off
Yeah.
lately, so he's still below 1200. But I think okay, so like early in the year, this is what I really enjoyed doing on SIA.com/bonfire. I put a little sprinkle on Eugene Lewis to lead the CFL in receiving.
Uh-huh.
So he is 54 yards behind Dalton Schoen. He could have a big game
Yeah.
this week. I think Schoen's going to win the receiving touchdowns race.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
got
no
a
question.
4-point
4
bump
touchdown lead.
on Rhymes right now. The rushing yards race, James
Right.
Butler, 1054.
Yep.
Kadeem Carey, 1088. Brady Oliveira has a chance, but he's over 150 yards behind Kadeem Carey right now. I don't think Calgary is going to play a ton of Kadeem Carey, nor do I
And he
think
splits the
BC
reps, right?
or Winnipeg. Yeah, I don't think these guys are going to get a lot of work. So I think that's probably how it's going to shake out. Maybe James Butler, jumps past Kadeem Carey, but I
I
don't see
think Butler
Brady
jumps past them, just they won't
catching
play
up.
Carey much, and he splits reps with Mills and Logan. I think Rhymes will take it. I don't think they're gonna throw to Schoen much because I think they're gonna wanna um I think Zach is really gonna want to establish Wolotarski and Ellingson. Mind you, then Drew Brown comes in. He may and Prukop may throw to Schoen, who knows? But I think it's Rhymes and Sankey is 10 ahead of Santos Knox. I think it's Sankey. Um Malden is 2 sacks ahead of Lemon, so it's tough to catch. I
Yeah,
don't
I mean
know.
sacks come and go, right? I don't know if going into the last week if it's a thing. One player could
Yeah.
have 4 sacks
Yeah.
on Saturday afternoon, and suddenly it's a completely different player
Yeah.
atop that. But that will be interesting to watch. What I wanted to say was on SAA.com/bonfire, Zach. Early in the year, you can do like head-to-head bets. So I am going to hit on Zach Collaros more passing yards than Cody Fajardo. I am going to
Oh,
hit
really?
on oh gosh, now I forget the other one. I know I lost Dane Evans. I picked Jeremiah Masoli more passing yards than Dane Evans. That injury ended that one. What was
Right.
the other one I had? Now I can't remember. I'm gonna have to maybe take a
Oh,
look.
I
But
should have hit Colaris over for Jardo. My God.
oh,
What was
easy,
I was sleeping.
easy money. Yeah, I got Gino to win the
He could.
receiving
You know,
title.
Harris likes to run. He just throws the Trevor Harris
Oh,
just throws up the ball there for him.
I
My
picked
God.
Kadeem Carey more rushing yards than James Wilder Jr. So where I
Oh.
hit with that one, I will,
Yeah.
because of injury, I will lose on another one in picking Masoli more
Right.
yards passing than Evans because of injury. But doing
And
okay,
Masoli was on
doing all right.
pace, right, to win that one.
Yep. Oh, yeah, but lots of fun stuff at the beginning of the
Yeah.
year on SIA.com/bonfire. I mean, hockey, NFL, in-game betting, parlays, you name it. You can really, the World Series starts, what is it, like 2 weeks from now? I think we're
Yeah.
finally going to get underway.
Oh, right,
No,
baseball,
get
that
it
other
close.
that other sport. Darren, I have a burning bonfire question for you because there was a fun video by the Bombers about Halloween candy. What's your favorite Halloween candy, buddy?
So Riley Mara is the man with the little microphone in those videos.
Yeah.
And I've been enjoying talking with him all season following practice when he's asking the guys all of those things. I'm on the team no candy corn, no doubt. My mom always liked candy corn, so it was
Seriously,
around
eh?
when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, just
They
could
had
never get into
some
it. Uh,
nasty candies growing up when we grew up, eh?
yeah.
Like
So like I'm
those taffy ones with the ghost
oh
ghosts or whatever. Like, you remember
god.
those ones? Like just gross
Yes, but
stuff.
no.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I am a Twix and Kit Kat guy, maybe
Oh,
a little
Kit
Wonder
Kat.
Bar in there.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, what I loved was like the little Twizzler packs. Like they were the little short little
Oh,
Twizzlers,
yeah.
like 4 Twizzlers, and they were like so congealed, like it was like one bar. It was like a Twizzler fruit bar. You know what I mean? Like fruit leather.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was my
That
favorite
was your
growing up.
favorite,
How about
eh?
you?
I'm a coffee crisp guy, but
Mm.
but I don't know if that's my favorite Halloween candy. I don't associate it with so much with Halloween. Craft caramels. I remember those Popeye like little what were those pipes or those white things?
Oh, the little
Um
Popeye cigarettes?
oh yeah. Oh my God, and rockets and oh there's so much crap. And then you'd get like you never get this now, you get homemade bags from neighbors. Like now you'd
Right. Yeah, like
and then you always have to check for needles and stuff. I'm like,
needles and razor blades, right? I don't
yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
what goes on in Transcona, Polly,
Yeah, well,
but
it's
apples, hard pass
come
on
on.
Halloween.
Maybe a candy apple, but you don't get that. You just all whatever it was for me, there was always a house in my neighborhood growing up where they'd give the full-size chocolate bar. right? And so you always want to hit that house. You might even have a few costumes on to try and mix it up and then get a couple. So anybody who's
Did you
giving
ever
out a
like
full size,
did you ever hitch a ride to like the rich neighborhoods and try to get some like primo candy?
yes, I
You
did.
know,
That
go to
was more like when I
Tuxedo
was
or
that's more when I was a
Wellington.
yeah, when I was a teenager doing stuff like that. But when I was a kid, I was just happy to get out there and try and
Many
get those
houses as
full size
possible. It doesn't
chocolate
matter.
bars, baby. Bring the garbage bag. Yeah,
Absolutely.
fun
Okay. Well,
times.
let's leave it there. Heck of a show. Really
Yeah.
appreciate everybody for joining us in the live chat. Be sure to like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Helps us out a lot. Big thanks to our sponsors. The Winnipeg Rifles this year really helped support the channel. Their season came to a close in crazy weather conditions in Regina
Yeah.
to the undefeated Thunder.
Rough
You can go to
ending for them.
riflesfootball.com for the latest on that. But lots of great stuff coming up with Shannon's Pub, Shannon's Irish Pub, and they got great eats there as well on Carlton Street. And some other sponsors are going to be jumping on
Oh,
for
yeah.
Grey Cup week and for Bonfire Hockey
We're
coming
working hard
soon.
here.
Tease.
And by the way, Dallas Paul's, this beauty of a chain was, let's just say it was $39.99 more than it cost to make. I'll just leave it at that.
The Jets stole their idea. Now they're selling them for what is it, $35 for the Jets?
40
ones.
bucks, 40 bones. And I
The
tell you,
Jets are
lots
going
of people.
35.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, listen, they sold a lot of them, man. You're going to see a lot of them at the West Final and then even on Friday night.
Yeah.
Whoever hit on that in the marketing or apparel department. Yeah. Yeah.
Corey May, of course. Chris Walby joins
Yeah.
me as he always does the day before the game. So that is tomorrow, Thursday, 3 p.m. live right here on Bonfire Sports post game as well. You don't want to miss game day after dark. Zach, glad to hear you are feeling better. The voice is a little
Yeah, it's a little
gravelly
rough.
today, but I
Yeah.
know that means you're on the mend. So looking forward to seeing you post game on Friday night.
Yes, yes, I look forward to it. Haven't had an after dark in a while because I skipped that last one because I'm an old man. But
A lot of bye weeks.
look forward to seeing you and hopefully getting a Bombers record of 15 wins. I know it's
Yeah.
not important to O'Shea, but it sure is to me as someone who's dyed in the wool Blue Bombers fan. So I'm hoping to get to that 15-3 record, buddy. We'll see you then and join in, folks, with the man himself, the legend, Chris Walby. It'll be a great show.
Yep. We'll see you then for Game Day Winnipeg. Zach, thanks again, man. We'll see you
Yeah,
next
buddy.
time. Enjoy,
Yeah.
everybody. Have a great night. See you next time on Bonfire Sports.